Alright, good morning people of YouTube, and welcome to another beautiful day in London. Authentically beautiful today. Sunny, mild, just before another cold snap, so enjoying the riding while it lasts. Today I'm going to talk about 8 tips for filtering in town. So number 1 of my tips is always to go, when you can, down the outside here rather than up the left hand side there, because there's so much more going on the left hand side. You've got cyclists in the cycle lane, people getting out of cars, you get sometimes people getting off buses pulling into the left. There's all sorts going on, so generally being on the right hand side, you've just got to look out for people turning right and maybe a few people walking across the road, pedestrians walking across the road there. If there's multiple lanes, you might want to go between the lanes sometimes, but then you're looking for 2 lanes of traffic changing lanes, and also your vision of people crossing the road is a lot more limited, because you might have 2 vans next to each other. You can't see a thing if anyone's crossing the road there, so generally try and go down the outside when you can. Second one is thinking about your speed as well. So if somebody does walk out from between 2 cars and you're going along at 30 and it's stationary traffic, you're not really going to have much time to react to that. So 10-15 miles an hour faster than the traffic is moving is probably about the limit. Definitely if you're a new rider, slower is a little bit better. It'll give you more time to anticipate stuff and more time to react if something does go wrong. Third tip is to look far ahead. So if you're going down the outside of the traffic, don't just look at the kind of immediate stuff around you. Try and check ahead, and if you can see any indication that somebody's about to pull out, then slow down or move over a little, or give yourself space to react. So things that you're looking for, like, as I said, an indicator. Something that I see quite often as well is that cars don't indicate before they swing a U-turn. You're coming down the outside, but you might see their front wheels just twitch towards the outside just before they pull over, or they might just move a tiny bit so that they can see out their mirrors, and then they might still miss you and then just pull out. So looking for all those little things, looking through the windows of a bus to see if anyone's walking across the front, just looking for any indication that there might be a hazard. And that brings me on to number 4, which is thinking about all of the set plays that might happen. So there are certain obvious scenarios where you might end up in a bit of trouble filtering. So when you're coming down the outside, the one that I've mentioned that happens almost all the time is that people get fed up of being in stationary traffic and they just swing a U-turn and decide to go the other way. If you're flying down the outside of a lane of traffic, then you've got to accept that that can happen. Another one is if you're going up a bus lane that a motorbike can use. So let's say this is a bus lane and I've got a row of stationary traffic travelling in my direction on the right hand side. Someone in the oncoming lane on the other side of the road might decide to turn right, and they can't really see you because of the stationary traffic, and they'll cut straight across the bus lane. So if you're undertaking, let's say legally, because you're in the bus lane, even just the nose of a car, just the corner of a car peeping out, you want to slow down, move back over a bit, give them space, and make sure that they've stopped and they've seen you before you proceed. 5th tip is not to neglect your shoulder checks. Like, they get drilled into you when you do your test nowadays that you should be doing shoulder checks all the time, but they're just as important when you're filtering, definitely, because even if you're a pretty good filterer, there's always going to be somebody quicker than you who's flying along. And so if you're going to move from, let's say, between 2 lanes of traffic and then it closes up so you can't get through, so you decide to move to the outside, you've really got to be checking over your shoulder on the right to make sure that there's no one coming past you on that outside lane. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad day for both of you. Number 6 is, if you can't be seen, then try and make yourself heard. So I'm not saying rev your engine at absolutely everybody, but sometimes maybe if you're in like a pressure situation, like you're between 2 cars and one starts moving over, or like a lorry starts moving over, whoa. That's one way to commute. As I was saying, is if you're in a pressure situation where you're between 2 vehicles, one starts moving over, then, like, yeah, in that situation, you might want to honk your horn to make sure they've seen you, or rev your engine as well, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't do it all the time, but again, in that situation where I can tell those 2 vehicles are looking to move over to the right and you're kind of going past them, sometimes it can help. This one's less of a safety tip. I guess everything that I've said so far is safety, but number 7 is mirrors. Like, I used to have the big mirrors on the stalks, and when you're really squeezing between cars, let's say it's safe to do so, it's stationary traffic, and you're just walking it slowly between very narrow gaps, those big mirrors on stalks can be a bit of a hindrance, because van mirrors that stick out quite a long way, and they're quite wide vehicles, actually, you know, in some of those situations where you've got 2 vans next to each other and both their mirrors are sticking out, I couldn't fit under them without folding the mirrors in, or like on a couple of occasions I think I clipped the van's mirrors. So I switched to these bar end mirrors, and in an ideal world I would hang them the other way down beneath the bars, because then you would even probably be able to squeeze under something like a taxi's mirror there. Like, you can see it's not quite low enough there. It would still clip that one. But the steering lock, if you try and put the steering lock on with the mirror underneath the bar, I think it touches the tank on this bike. Maybe I didn't say it quite right. Anyway, right choice of mirrors. Little bar ends, one's below, one's above, or maybe some of the ones on quite a low stalk can help you squeeze through smaller gaps. And these are pretty cheap. I picked these up off Amazon for like £10-15. You can get them on eBay as well. Not the highest quality, but quite a nice cheap mod to aid your commute. And then the last tip that I've got, number 8, is always thinking about risk to reward ratio. So say you can see there's a lorry and there's a gap up the left hand side of it, but it's on a slight curve to the left, like on a roundabout or something where the traffic's not moving, and it could set off at any moment. There's quite a big risk there that it's going to go left over you and crush you. That's how a lot of cyclists accidents happen in London. And what's the reward there? Probably 10-20 seconds quicker to get into work. Like, you may as well have just got up a little bit earlier. So, you know, always weigh up that ratio. Diving through gaps quickly, you know, speeding along when there could be people walking out. Like, if you want to knock someone down and take them out just for the sake of getting somewhere a couple of minutes quicker, that doesn't really seem to add up. So always try and bear that in mind. All this said, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, so if you've got any other tips for filtering, then please do leave them in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, then please click subscribe.